Hello Body and Soul community, it's me Lyric. I'm here today to talk about eating seasonally, eating locally. And what I mean by that is eating foods that are currently growing where you live. Or you can take some of those foods that are currently growing where you live and preserve them to eat them in another season. An example of this would be canning or drying or freezing something like fresh fruit in the summer so that you can enjoy it in the winter. Some folks feel that eating local food or seasonally available food is limiting, but I feel really differently. I feel like the experience of eating food when it's fresh and in season is actually really expansive because it allows you to really learn what foods are in season when, right? So I am surrounded by local foods right here, right now. I have some curly kale from my garden, fresh basil from my garden, lemon balm and parsley from my garden, cucumbers from my garden, pak choi from my garden, and I also have Romanesco, which is a really beautiful brassica plant from a local farmer's market, and I have a fennel bulb and some fennel tops from Dr. John Wilson Community Garden, as well as some green onions from Dr. John D. Wilson Community Garden. Dr. John D. Wilson Community Garden is a garden in Black Mountain. You can absolutely get involved. You can volunteer there to help with harvest and garden maintenance. They also allow community members to have a space in the garden that you're responsible for maintaining, and they ask that you donate 10% of your plot to the community. Specifically, Dr. John D. Wilson Community Garden donates so much food to Bounty and Soul. They've donated over 2,000 pounds of food so far this year. It's a really amazing space to get involved if you're interested in learning how to garden, learning what's in season. Another amazing space, I have some beautiful beets from Root Cause Farm. They're located down in Fairview. They also have volunteer opportunities, and they also donate a huge percentage of their food to Bounty and Soul. I believe last year they donated the majority of the food that they grew to Bounty and Soul to distribute into the community to have access to fresh, seasonally available food. Check out Root Cause and Dr. John Wilson. They will teach you so much about seasonal local foods. So why eat local? I feel like I can go to the grocery store and I can buy any type of produce from anywhere in the world, pretty much any time of year. But the truth of it is that most of that food does not have anywhere near the freshness or the quality that food that's grown where you live does. If you think about it, a lot of our produce comes from California, and so you harvest the food, you package the food, you put the food on trucks or on a train, and then it comes all the way here, and then it gets unloaded and then loaded into the grocery store. Maybe it's stored at a distributor facility for a long time. There's so many days in between you eating that food and it being harvested that a lot of the nutrition and freshness and really just integrity of the food can be lost. By example, food that's harvested at a local farm here like Rockmont Farm, they harvest on Friday morning, they bring it to us, we sort it, and then a lot of that food goes out to market on Friday afternoon in the evening. And if not on Friday, then it goes out the next Tuesday. And so you can imagine the difference in taste and nutrition and just experience of food that's going to be traveling that far. Another thing that's happening when food is traveling that far to get to your plate is a reduction in accountability. It's much harder to really know where that food is coming from, how the people that grew the food were treated, how that food was treated, and all of the factors that go into farming and growing food. Whereas if you purchase food from a local farmer, you have the opportunity to have a face-to-face discussion, to look a farmer in the eye and ask them questions that matter to you. Whatever values you have the ability to investigate that when you're purchasing on a more local level. And while you're purchasing on that local level, you're contributing to your localized economy. More so, I think there's something really special and sacred that happens when a food is specifically available at a certain time of year for a specific time. I think of strawberries. I don't buy strawberries at the grocery store. I only eat strawberries when they're fresh and in season here in Southern Appalachia, which is like late May through June, maybe a little bit of July, and then I'll freeze some and I'll enjoy them throughout the year that way. But there's a sense of reverence and excitement and anticipation that comes each year with strawberry season or mulberry season or blueberry season, whatever foods that you're most excited about. When that time comes around, it's a time for celebration, and that can really be lost when you feel like you could easily just drive to the store and get it any time. It doesn't have that sense of specialness necessarily. And this is how traditions are built around food and around seasonality and living with the seasons. You know, every year you might have the same tradition when you harvest strawberries. You might go to the same farm to harvest your strawberries, or you might have a patch in your garden that you go to year after year at that same time. And it builds relationship between yourself, not only between yourself and the food and the plant, but also with the land. You begin to learn and understand the different stages of the seasons and the plants. And it's not just vital for your mental and emotional connection with place, but also for your body and your bodily functions, because we are built to eat seasonally. There's a reason why, you know, there's really cooling foods available to us in the summer, like cucumber or watermelon. You know, it's a relationship that's been built over time to have these natural allies in the plant world to help us cool ourselves in the summer, or to warm ourselves in the winter with really hearty root vegetables that we can store all winter, roast, and it's just fun. It's just plain fun to experiment with foods that may not be a part of your diet until you start eating seasonally. Something like fennel, I find is a fairly unusual vegetable or herb in the American diet, but it grows really, really well here in the late spring into summer. And so you may find yourself creating like a whole new appreciation and relationship with different foods that you may not be familiar with. And likewise, some foods grow in such abundance here that you have to get really creative and try different recipes. I'm thinking specifically of zucchini or summer squash, which grows so prolifically here. And I've had to get really, really creative with how I eat that food, because there's just so much of it, and it lends itself to the abundance of creativity. It never gets boring, because as soon as you think like, I cannot eat another zucchini, the zucchini time has passed and it's time for okra or corn or another late summer season food. And so it's always changing in this beautiful rhythm that you can become attuned to. So I hope this video got you excited about eating local foods. We are working really hard at Bounty and Soul to increase the amount of local foods that we're providing at our markets. That's one of my roles here. You can also get involved, like I said, Dr. John D. Wilson Community Garden, Root Cause Farm. You can get on my newsletter email list, and I send out lots of different gardening opportunities every Monday, so you can grow and expand your knowledge and meet more people in the community. Of course, we have recipes for, I believe, all of these foods on our website, and I do recipe videos twice weekly, often highlighting local and seasonal foods. So you can check those out. You can also get in touch with me directly if you have any more questions about seasonal eating.